Alright guys, Tommy here with my quick guide to reach the high ranks, or aka if you ever hit a wall. So when I'm talking about high ranks, what do I mean? I mean the ranks at the bottom here, also called the golden ranks, where all the giants are. So this guide is really dedicated to people who make posts that they hit a wall, like this guy here, or this guy here. He's talking about that he's facing now decks with more than 5 legendaries, and he's stuck in the ranks between 15 and 20, and he's really having trouble to climb higher. Or this guy here, he's having trouble at the ranks 10 till 11 and is using a deck without legendaries. What can he do? He feels really troubled. Here's another one. He's trying out many different archetypes of decks and switching them all the time, and he still doesn't know what to do. And there are really so many of these. So this guide is going out for you guys there, and I really want to give you something to work with. So what's the motivation to reach high ranks in the first place? Well, it's a premise to reach legend, and everybody wants to reach legend, right? You want to get that shiny golden sign on your profile and, you know, play with the big guys. So admit that you want to reach legend, right? So yeah, in the high ranks you face mostly known decks. So all that stuff that's written in Tempo Storm's Meta Snapshot or the power ranks of Liquid Earth, all that stuff will finally make sense and will finally be applicable to your meta. So that's really nice, and you will finally know what decks your opponents are playing. And another really important point is you will face strong opponents there. So the opponents will now punish your misplays immediately. And I think that's really important to learn more to improve your Hearthstone skills to a really high level. And also the opponents will manage to come back from certain situations when you're thinking, oh, I already won this, and the guy will manage to come back. So they will really teach you lessons in the high ranks. So overall you learn a lot there. So here's my quick guide. It's just 4 simple points. That's it, just 4 points. So the first point is track your stats. The second point is choose an aggressive deck. I will come to that in a moment. The third point is you should ignore distractions, and by distractions I don't mean like TV and YouTube. You should also ignore TV and YouTube, but that's not the point of this guide. And the last point is you should master that deck. So why should you track your stats in the first place? There's something called subjective recognition. That means your brain lies to you. You're not remembering correctly what has happened. So the other day I was playing midrange Paladin in ladder, and I was thinking, okay, I'm playing against so many face hunters right now, and then I looked at my stats and I thought, okay, over the last 2 weeks I was playing 9 times against face hunter. I won 4 games and lost 5. And I also realized, oh shit, I was playing 14 games against Zoo, and I only was able to win 4, and I lost 10 games against Zoo. So there was really a misconception there. I should adapt against Zoolog and not against face hunters. So please get the correct numbers. There are many stats tracking tools out there. I recommend you guys to use TrackerBot. I will leave the link in the description. It doesn't really matter which tool you use. Here's an example how TrackerBot looks like. Yeah, just make sure that you get the correct numbers. This idea I kind of took from Nocturne and Zenobia from Tempo Storm. I will also leave the link in the description to the original article. They made a really nice graphic about factors influencing the outcome of the game. So why do you win in high ranks? There's of course luck involved, there's deck knowledge involved, there's some inherent deck advantage, like some decks really counter the other deck, And of course, you have the most important part is the optimal play. And I really think they made a really good judgment, like putting the numbers like this, more or less. So it's really good and all that in high ranks. But I think in lower ranks, the cake actually changes. In lower ranks, it is much more important just to find the optimal play. So if you're not able to reach the high ranks, that means that you are doing some severe misplays. You are playing something really wrong, and you should work on your plays and not work on your tech cards and all that kind of stuff. Now, of course, there's still luck involved, and still you will get countered some time, but the most important factor is to find the optimal play. So why to choose an aggressive deck then? I think in an aggressive deck there is much less room for severe misplays, because you don't get to have the choice, for instance, if you should draw cards now, or if you should play a defensive card, or if you should play a brawl now or not. Something like that is not really important in an aggressive deck. So there's much less room for misplays. And they are also less affected by card draw and by mulligan and by all that kind of stuff. And really important is that you also give your opponent less space to develop like weird strategies. For instance, once I was playing at rank, I don't know, 15 or something with Control Warrior, and my opponent played the combo Baron Rivendare and Sylvanas Windrunner. And it turns out, as a Control Warrior, that combo is really troubling. But if I would play something like Face Hunter, I really don't care about this combo. It doesn't affect me at all. So you avoid weird strategies. So here are my deck recommendations. As you can see, I recommend you to play Hunter, either Face Hunter or Midrange Hunter. The Face Hunter is the really budget version for new guys, new players, and the Midrange Hunter is the more advanced version for maybe a little bit more experienced players and for players who can afford the dust. So I chose those decks because I completely tested them and I know that they work, they're approved. And my guide is not about telling you that you should just pick Face Hunter and then you will be able to climb to the high ranks. That's not what I'm saying. The deck choice doesn't really matter. But, well, I have to give you some aggressive decks, and Face Hunter is, of course, the definition of an aggressive deck. And I think it's really work, and it's really good to go. Trump stated in a recent guide that he would not recommend Face Hunter to new players because you would not learn as much as from other more control-y decks. I think that's true to a certain degree, but I think Face Hunter makes up to that by just bringing you to the higher ranks, and in the higher ranks you just learn so much more. So I still recommend you to play Face Hunter. Now some people might argue that Midrange Hunter is not really an aggressive deck, it's a mid-range deck. That's true, I think, but it's one of the most aggressive mid-range decks out there, and Hunter itself, it's a really aggressive class, so you're still good to go with Midrange Hunter. But I think you should not pick slower decks than Midrange Hunter. So here are some more decks, just to outline that just to show you that it wouldn't really matter which deck you pick. Just choose one deck, and ideally it's an aggressive deck. So please let me know which of these decks I should play in my next series. I will use it to reach the high ranks. Here are some more resources, just to underline again that you can literally choose any deck to get to the high ranks. The choice of deck is not that important, it's more important to find the optimal play. A player named WingsOfWaxIII, he made a budget guide series. The decks are all very, very cheap to build, and he was able to reach legend with those decks all the time. So the deck choice doesn't really matter that much. You can also just go ahead and go to all the standard resources and pick aggressive decks from there. It doesn't really matter. So how to master a deck? Well, you really need to learn all the small details about your deck. Learn all the matchups against all classes, against all archetypes, against all sorts of decks out there. Learn how to mulligan against which player, learn which cards counter you really hard, learn which classes counter you really hard, and all that kind of stuff. Learn all the details. You should really know when to play which card and all that, and that just comes by playing most of the time. And really important for this is never switch the deck. Once you made the choice that you're playing, for instance, Face Hunter, never switch the deck. Just play the deck as it is. It's really good to go to reach the high ranks. You don't need to switch the deck. It's not necessary. Forget about tech cards. You don't need them. Just forget about them. It's not required until the high ranks. Learn from your stats. You can use your tracked stats to tag in certain cards into your deck, but you only want to tag in Kazan Mystic if you are playing like against 50% mages with secrets all the time. And I never saw anyone who would present me some statistics that he would face so many mages. So it's not out there. So you don't need the tech cards. Never switch the deck. I cannot mention this often enough. So, and here's a slide dedicated to all the shiny legendaries out there who look so pretty and look so amazing. Of course, I would also love to have that shiny golden Dr. Boom, and I would love to even have a Deathwing. I don't have a Deathwing, but guess what? As it turns out, you don't need Deathwing to get Legend. So you also don't need all these cards to reach the high ranks. It's not necessary. And as a side note, you can also forget about Grim Patron, because until the high ranks, nobody is really playing Grim Patron, and if they are doing like they are really having trouble to play the deck. So just forget about all that stuff and look at your plays. You should accept losses. You should learn from your losses if possible. Save replays from your plays and look what you could have done better. Accept counter decks. You can learn which deck counters you from your stats, which you track. So then you will see, oh shit, my deck is losing all the time against Priest. But then you might realize, oh, from the last 50 games I was playing, I played only 2 times against Priest. So it doesn't really matter that Priest is a counter to your deck. And you should not really adapt against Priest because you're not facing them. Yeah, accept counter tech cards. When somebody is playing Kazan Mystic against you, just accept it. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. Some more useful tips, which new players usually won't do. Think ahead. Think about your next turn. Look at your cards in your hand right now. It doesn't really matter what you draw at that point, but just imagine what you're most likely going to play next turn. And think about what your opponent will most likely play next turn. That's what most players don't do, and it really helps out. Just make a habit out of it. Think about the next turn. It's really, really important. Avoid tilt. If you lose like 2 or 3 games in a row, just go outside, go into the nature, do some sports, meet some friends, meet a nice girl, do some sports, do meditation, do whatever you like. Just shut down the computer and do something else. And you should also add friends during your climb, especially when you reach the high ranks. You should add many friends there to get to legend. But yeah, I made a whole Reddit post about that, which got really nice feedback. I will leave it in the comments. To summarize, you learn much more in the high ranks. Your plays have the most influence on the outcome of the game. And you should ideally master one aggressive deck at a time. Don't play too many decks. That's too much confusion. And also avoid putting in too many tech cards and ignore all the distractions with the legendaries and all that kind of stuff. And please note the little small PhD hat on the sea giant. Yeah, ignore the distractions. Coming soon, my guide to legend. this is the easy part. Reaching the high ranks. Reaching legend is much harder. Also the guide for me will be much harder. So yeah, thanks for watching. Please leave questions and critics in the comments, and make sure to check out my Twitch channel. I see you guys soon. Bye bye.